Hi, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about citing sources. It's one of the most important things that you should be able to do at the end of this class. Citing is also important in all your academic classes. You need to be able to have skills at this. And I've found that it's a little complicated and challenging for students. If you follow the pattern and learn the rules, it's not that complicated, but there are some complicated things, and I need to explain how to manage these things. Um, I'm going to break this up into two parts. Today we're going to talk about the references page, or the works cited page you might have heard, and then we're going to talk about in-text citations in the next lecture. So first of all, citing sources. We're going to talk about the references page. And first of all, we need to kind of get a conceptual idea of why it is needed to cite. The first purpose is really to give credit to your source. In academic circles, it's just important. If you got the idea from somebody else, you've got to give credit, okay? Among your friends, you hear something funny and you say it as if you thought of it, that's fine. But in academics, you've got to say where it came from. You got to give credit. Another crucial thing is just to let your reader know that you did get the information from someone else. If you say something as if it's your ideas, and just to be fair to your reader, they need to know if you got it from somewhere else. And this is crucial. It's also to enable your reader to find the sources for themselves. That's a crucial point that I cannot emphasize enough. So I'm going to say it again. The citations should be written in such a way that your reader could find the sources for themselves. I do this myself. If you put a source in there, sometimes I just read on, but a lot of times I'm curious about it. What about this source? Where did this person get this source? Is this valid information? Sometimes students say some of the darndest things. And I think, this is true. And not just students, professional writers too. I read a book and I say, I'm a little suspicious. I'm going to find that fact. And sure enough, a lot of times these come from disreputable sources. So the citation helps me as a teacher or as a critical reader to find that source myself. And of course, fundamentally, this helps you avoid plagiarism. Plagiarism is the failure to give credit to somebody else's work. So it's a major academic sin. And if it's intentional, I will report it to, if I think it's intentional, I'll report it to the vice president. And I've had students get kicked out of school because they were inveterate plagiarizers. That's pretty bad. That's pretty extreme. In a lot of cases, it's unintentional, and there it's going to hurt your grade, though. So I want you to really learn this. So let's review what it is that has to be cited. That's really crucial. A lot of people think only direct quotes have to be cited. That's not true. Direct quotes, indirect quotes. So in other words, if you're saying Bill said this, and you're using your own words, that still has to be cited. You got to say where it came from. Partial quotes, that has to be cited. Summaries, facts, examples. Anytime you say research shows, you better have a citation. A lot of people use this research shows when they want to add some heft to what they say, and they're really, well, frankly, they're bullshitting. What they really mean is, I think I heard somewhere that this is true, or maybe I read somewhere. That's not good enough. If you say the word research shows and you don't have a citation, I'm going to nail you. So either don't use that phrase or use it when you've got your citation. Basically, whatever you didn't know before you started doing research for the essay, that's a good rule of thumb. Or another good rule of thumb, information that's not common knowledge. Now, sometimes you have some odd bits of knowledge that maybe should it be cited or not? I don't know. That's a debatable issue. I happen to know that Napoleon was born in Corsica. All right. So if I'm writing about Napoleon, I would not have to cite it based on this first rule, what you didn't know before you started doing the research. But certainly it's not common knowledge. that, so would I cite it? I'll probably go ahead and cite it. I'm going to oversight rather than undercite. Better to cite too much than not enough. All right, so that's what you have to cite. Now, why does it get complicated? Part of the reason is there are different styles of citations. The three most common are MLA, Modern Language Association, that's used in humanities courses typically. APA, American Psychological Association, that's typically used in social sciences. Chicago, that's footnotes, and that's commonly used in history. Well, it's leaving, what do you do in business? What do you do in economics? What do you do in sciences? I don't know. A lot of teachers have their own style. That's another thing. And in high school, I found my students have had some very odd citation styles that were taught to them in high school that I never see anywhere else. So anyway, it gets complicated. In this class, we're going to use APA. I do this because in most of your English 1A courses, you're probably taught MLA, and so I want to teach you a different style. The other thing is I find that APA is very commonly used. So that's one complication. The other complicated factor, and I think this really is really hard for students to conceptualize, and I really want to make sure you get this. You cite, there are two parts to the citation, and they have two different functions. So if you get the hang of this, it's a two-part process with two different purposes. That will help you. So first of all, there are citations in the body of the essay. As you're writing the essay, you've got maybe a name. So you give some fact, Ulaanbaatar is the capital of Mongolia, and then you have Smith, page 22. You got that from Smith, page 22, okay? That's your in-text citation. That guides your reader to the reference page without interrupting the flow of the essay. We're going to talk about this in our next lesson, but the key point about that in-text citation is it guides you to the references page, but it shouldn't interrupt the flow. It shouldn't be like too much information. The minimal amount of information you need in order to find that on the references page. Then the second part of the citation is your references page. That's your list of all your references. It's also known as a bibliography or as a works cited page, depending on the technique of what style we're using. This is the last page of your essay, and this guides your reader to find the source in the real world. So if you think about it this way, you've got your essay, the in-text citations guide the reader to the references page, and then the references page guide the reader to the real world or where they could find that in the real world. So this is why we need the two parts. This one, the in-text citations, this is not going to tell me where I can find it in the real world, but it will tell me where I can find it here, and this one tells me where I can find it in the real world, okay? So it's a two-part. Today we're going to talk about the references page. Next lesson, we'll talk about the in-text citations. So couple things to pay attention to. You're going to have a page number. Every page of your essay should be numbered, and you're going to continue that in the references page. Every page of your essay should have a running title at the top. That also will be on the references page. Everything in your essay is double spaced. Same with your references page. Don't put an extra space in between. Just everything's just double spaced. You're going to use alphabetical order. That's an easy one to forget. Don't forget that. And hanging indentation. And so this is what it looks like. Hanging indentation. I'll show you what that looks like here. It'll look like this. So notice I have my running head. This will be my title. This is going to be my page number. This says references. And then this is hanging indent, where it's flush left and then indented five spaces here. There's a technique for doing this, and I'll show you this at the end of this lesson, how to do the hanging indentation. You'll notice, by the way, that references is centered, but everything else is left justified with a hanging indentation. You'll also notice that the whole thing is double spaced. There's no extra spaces here, but there is a double space for everything. So that's kind of what your references page. Notice also alphabetical order, A, B, B, like that. All right. All right. So what information do you include? For APA, you go like this. You have the author's last name, comma, first initial, period. Date of publication, period, in parentheses. The date of publication is in parentheses. The title of the article, period. The name of the website in italics, period. The date you accessed, comma, and then the URL. Now, this is only one way. This is the most common way that you're going to be using. Most of what you're going to be referring to will be online articles. In my experience, 95% of what students cite are online articles. So that's what I'm showing you here. That's the model I'm showing you. But it gets more complicated. It gets very complicated. And I'll show you some of the different options. I'm not going to show you the whole thing. I'm just going to show you how the basic pattern, and then how to find the information if you're doing, say, a book or an online book or a YouTube video, something like that. I'll show you how to get that information. Here's an example. Here's the author's last name, Calarco, comma, J, period. And then the date of publication and a period. Why rich kids are so good at the marshmallow test. This is in, this is the title. The title's not going to be italicized. The name of the magazine is going to be italicized, or the name of the website. Retrieved May 28, 2020 from, and then there's my URL. So that's the pattern I use. Notice a couple of things. Notice where the periods are and the commas. Notice also that I'm not going to capitalize anything except for the first word and proper noun. This is a proper noun, so it gets capitalized. I will capitalize the major words of whatever's capitalized in the website, we're going to capitalize, all right? But the title, we don't capitalize everything. Even if everything is in capitalization when it's online, you're going to shift it to lowercase here, except for the first word or proper nouns. If there's no author, if there's no author, then I begin with the title. Stanford Marshmallow Experiment. That's the title of the article. Again, I still have the date. Since I don't have a date here, I'm going to put in Wikipedia. I'm going to put the name of the website, and then retrieved from, and then my website. All right? It's pretty simple. It's really not that complicated, but, well, there's some complications I'll show you in a minute. Pay attention to details. Where are the periods, commas, quotes, italics, capital letters, those kind of things. Make sure you check those, all right? After a first word of the title, or the first word after a colon or a semicolon, those get capitalized too. And of course, proper nouns are always capitalized. Okay, there are some tricky issues. So there are a lot of variations, and I'll show you how to manage these. You also have a hanging indentation. Let's look at these. Let's escape here. Hold on. All right, let's see here. All right, so one way to deal with the complexities is, of course, you've got your writer's reference, and this is really the best. On page, what page are we on? 435, you've got this list. This is your directory for, or your index for all your references. And it gives you all the different types. You know, if you've got, I mean, there's so many complexities. What if you've got 2 authors? What if you've got 3? What if you've got 5 authors? How do you do it? What if that you have one author and he wrote, or she wrote, 3 different articles, and you're referring to all 3 articles, all right? What do you do there? What do you do if it's a book? What do you do if it's you know, an encyclopedia? Oh, it gets so complicated. But this guides you. You just look in the reference, and that'll show you. All right. So use that, and that will guide you through that. I think this is the best source. This is part of the reason I got this book, is it really does citations very well. That's one of the strong suits of this book. So that's one source. You can go online if, let's say, you're out goofing around somewhere and you want to write your paper. Well, you can use Owl Purdue is one I use. And let's see here. All right, here we go. So just type in Owl Purdue APA. Or if you're using MLA, you can type in MLA or Chicago. So any formatting style, they'll show you. So let's go here. This takes us to an overview and an introduction, and then we can go to the formatting and style guide, and this will give us our basic different formats. So let's say I'm doing articles in a periodical, or let's say I do a book. Let's say I'm going to have a physical book. Wow, what are those things? Then it'll give me the basic format there, and it'll give me examples. It'll give me examples if it's an edited book with no author, if it's an edited book with an author, if it's a translation, if it's an edition other than a first. It gets really complicated, like you can see, right? Let's say audio-visual materials here. So I'm going to go here, audio-visual materials, a film or video. This gives you the basic pattern and then gives you an example. Now, if it's of a different language, a TV series, TV episode, YouTube video, music album, right? Podcast, it goes on, right? So this is a really nice source. It's portable, electronic source that can be really helpful. There are things I want to warn you about here. Let's say if I go electronic sources here, they do have a citation machine. Honestly, I've not been too happy with a lot of the citation machines. They're often incorrect and not that accurate. For example, this says website, book, journal article, or online video. Well, what if if I'm citing an online article from a magazine? In fact, that's probably what a lot of my students use. So, there are a lot of very good magazines out there with online presence. This doesn't give you the choice. And so all those citations are going to be wrong using the citation machine. The other thing, sometimes students put the wrong information in the wrong place. They don't know which the website, what's the title, and I'm suggesting you just learn the thing, learn how to do it. And you don't have to memorize it. You just go to your sample here in Al Purdue or in this book, and that'll guide you, okay? So that's one issue that gets complicated, and that's your solution, is find a good source. The second thing that always confuses students is hanging indentation. How do you do hanging indentation? So I'm going to show you how to do hanging indentation. So these are my sources. I got a title, I got my page number, I got references. All right, and then now look at everything is flush left to start, which is fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'll highlight it. Okay, this is, sorry, let me clarify. This is Google Docs. I'm using Google Docs right now. I'll show you in Microsoft Word in a minute, all right? So Google Docs, I'm going to highlight everything here, and I'll go to Format, and I'll go to Align and Indent, and I'll go to Indentation Options, okay? So Format, Align and Indent, Indentation Options, and I'll go to Special Indent, Hanging. All right, and it automatically goes to 0.5, which is just where I want it. Bingo. Now everything is a hanging indentation. The purpose of the hanging indentation is so that it's very easy to read the alphabetical order of things. You can quickly skim through and find out where the source begins or what, and quickly skim through. If you're reading, my PhD, my references list was 40 pages, okay, 40 pages. And if my supervisor couldn't find my sources quickly and easily, he'd have murdered me, right? So this hanging indentation is really helpful. Now, in Microsoft Word is even easier, in my humble opinion. So again, I've got title. Oops, this should be over there. But let's say this. Okay, I'm going to highlight all this. And make sure you have a ruler, okay? If you don't have the ruler, you may have to click on View and, oops, let's go. Is it Home? Oh yeah, no, View, there we go. View, ruler, right there. So if you click ruler off, there's no ruler. You gotta have a ruler, all right? So you got the ruler, you got these little triangles here. You gotta be really precise here. You gotta grab just that bottom one. You see it says hanging indentation there. All right, I'm gonna hold that. I'm gonna drag that in halfway there. Voila, I've got my hanging indentation. All right, so that's totally doable. So that's your in-text citation, your references page, AKA works cited page, and that should guide you with that. And I look forward to seeing those really effectively. Go on to the next lesson and learn how to do the citations in the text. Those will guide you to your works cited page. Take care.